Hi everyone. I thought I would make a little video introducing those who are curious to the Silent Column. I realized that I haven't actually made an introductory video for the visual novel. I've been doing so much else relating to the visual novel that I forgot to actually introduce people to it and give a basic entry point for people to get acquainted with the project. So I thought that I would take time today to just introduce you guys to what the Silent Column even is. So I guess without further ado, let's get down to it. The Silent Column is a romance visual novel. It's a boy pursues girl romance visual novel, and it has mystery and supernatural elements, and it has Christian themes. Right away I need to do a disclaimer that by Christian themes I mean that there are some awkward things kind of relating to Christian themes. And it's okay, I'm not meaning that it's some sort of weird biblical fan fiction that inserts biblical characters into the story. That's not what it is. And also, it's not one of those stories where it just constantly goes hard, basically trying to convert people sort of thing. It's not really that sort of thing either. I just thought that it was fair to point out that it does have Christian themes permeating the story. Also, the setting is a post-apocalyptic setting, and this also should have a disclaimer, because I think most of the time when I think of a post-apocalyptic setting, I think of something like in the nuclear fallout of some sort of war where it's a wasteland, or something in the opposite direction where it's again, kind of like a biblical fan fiction thing where it's a supernatural annihilation of mankind, and it's supposed to be some sort of big metaphor for the hubris of mankind or something like that. And the Silent Column isn't either of those things. Rather, the Silent Column's big event that led to the deaths of most people in the world is supernatural in nature, but it's not supposed to be a metaphor for the divine being upset with humanity or anything. And it also isn't a big blasted wasteland either. There's actually a lot of lush greenery around. So I thought I'd clear that up as well. And also, when people think about a post-apocalyptic setting, I think a lot of the time people think about Earth. And this is not actually taking place on Earth. It's a unique setting. And also, I think most of the time when people think, oh, the setting is post-apocalyptic, that's sort of all they think. But the Silent Column has a lot of things in it. And the post-apocalyptic, if you want to call it that, nature of the setting is only one of the aspects of it. Just to give you a rundown on the basics of the setting here. So they're on a planet that isn't Earth. The sun is in a fixed position in the sky. The night sky has no stars in it for some reason. Also, the light of the sun only reaches so far. So there's a large dark area outside of the sun's rays. And in that dark area is a perpetual winter, and it's in a blizzard at all times because the sun's rays don't reach it, so it never gets warm. And in the dark area, there are these very dangerous, large man-eating animals, similar to, think of a lion mixed with a bear, mixed with a bat, and they're averse to light. So they live in the dark. And actually there's a light barrier around the city so that even at night, these lights turn on, or did before the catastrophic event. And it would keep those animals called ratids out of the city so that they wouldn't terrorize the place and eat people and stuff. You can actually go out into the dark. It's just a really bad idea most of the time because you could really easily die. Also, it's assumed by most characters that there's only one city. As you would expect, everybody kind of lives in the light area, and there only seems to be one city in it. So by an apocalyptic event, quote unquote, it basically just means that it seems like everybody in the city died. Also, there are some strange qualities to the water. In the setting, there's the light area, there's an island, and there's a body of water, and then there's the mainland where the city is. And there's a beach on the mainland. And yeah, the water has some strange supernatural qualities to it. And there's kind of just a bunch of mysteries going on. And the catastrophic event, which the characters refer to as the Fall, it is a big event, and it does influence people a lot. Obviously, like, it has an effect on people's emotions, and, like, it kind of messed them up. But it's not like that's all there is to it. There are also elements relating to, like, multiverse theory and time travel. And there's also elements relating to, like, you could say that this is a little bit steampunk related. You have some intricate things made out of brass. And you could also see that it's like, okay, some of the steampunk stuff is related to the time travel stuff, but also it seems like the setting is taking place with like futuristic technology, or at least there was futuristic technology before the catastrophic event happened. At some point, the main character gets his hands on a thumb screen, which in the setting, just to give you an idea of like the level of technology that the setting had, it was just a little thing about the size of a guitar pick. And you would pick it up, and just by your own body temperature, it would like light up, and there would be a holographic screen, and then you would like tap on the screen, and it would like log you in or whatever, and basically connect you to the internet. And also there were matter converters as well, and they talk about there being robots that would work in mining to like convert material like earth, not like the planet Earth, but like soil and sand and rock and stuff. And they would be able to convert that into food. But when the story starts, all that technology basically has turned off and it's not available. So I just thought I'd give you an idea about what the setting is. And it is mostly a supernatural romance love story with some intriguing mystery elements and stuff. So there are 4 love interests. Now that I'm done talking about the setting, I'm going to talk about the love interests a little bit. So there is Amy, and then there's Thydria, and then there's Sarah, and then lastly there is the last love interest who actually, her name changes when her route starts. She's spent most of her life going by one name, but then when her route starts, she picks a different name. So I'm just going to refer to her for the time being as the 4th love interest. So I'll talk about Thydria first because she's kind of the most easy to understand of the love interests in my opinion. Basically, she's traumatized after what happened relating to the Fall. She feels guilty about it. She has some ties to supernatural elements, although she herself does not have any supernatural abilities. But mainly she's just a nice, quiet girl who lives on the beach, and she kind of just enjoys living a quiet life with the protagonist if you go down her route. And it's just sort of a wholesome, sweet love story for the most part. There are things, of course, that happen in her storyline, but basically the way that her route is that her and the main character are just in a very close relationship and living together, and it's wholesome and affectionate, and the other plot elements kind of happen around them, and they kind of work through it together and try to deal with it together while being in a close relationship. That, I guess, is the best way to describe Thydria. Now, talking about Amy, Amy's actually kind of tricky to understand. When you meet her, the first time you meet her, she seems very confused about a lot of things and actually seems shocked about the catastrophic event that happened. And she's confused about a lot of things. She's confused about the passage of time. She seems to not be able to differentiate between night and day, literally, which is basically the protagonist is like, what the heck? And she seems to have lost her memories as well. She just seems very confused when the game starts. And then when she goes to the beach, she gets traumatized because she can hear voices in the water of the dead. And then later, when the protagonist finds her on the beach again, she seems to be doing relatively okay, but then she starts talking about, like, being on the shore reminded her of her past, and she started to remember some trauma that she had in the past, so she actually has an emotional breakdown. And then, like, the protagonist and Thydria basically come to her aid, and they bring her inside, and they basically help her recover, and they have a sleepover together, and they have some food, and she has a good night's sleep, and she feels way better the next day. So that's good. If you pursue Amy, mainly the protagonist just tries to help her as best as he can with what she's going through, and she seems to be drawn to the island for some reason, because she revisited the shore even after her initial, after everything with the voices of the dead and being traumatized that way, she for some reason returned to it. And then later she returns to the shore again, and it just seems like she's drawn to the shore or to the island or to the water or something. And the protagonist is basically helping her to solve all of these strange, vague questions that she has. But under all of these mysteries and all of this confusion, she's basically just a kind, loving girl who loves peace and is in upsetting and very convoluted circumstances. So that is Amy in a nutshell. And then we have Sarah. Sarah is, in my opinion, quite easy to understand because she pretty much has her emotions on her sleeve all the time. If she's happy, she's happy. If she's sad, she's sad. If she's excited, she's excited. And it's, in my opinion, quite endearing. And she also is or was a fairy of some kind and has given herself basically human form. So, she's the size of a person and everything. But she unfortunately has extremely powerful supernatural abilities, and it's kind of tough. She actually hates the abilities so much because they're very hard for her to control. She's a little bit impulsive, and the powers are like based off of her emotions. So if she gets bent out of shape too much or like lets herself slip, really bad things could happen. Things akin to what happened with the fall, although she technically wasn't responsible for the fall. But yeah, largely she's just a kind girl who's dealing with grief related to the fall, and if you go down her route, she just enjoys spending time with the protagonist and talking with him and doing things with him that she likes because she wants to share it with him. And she's a sweetie. And lastly, I'll talk about the fourth love interest. So the fourth love interest is apart from the other three love interests in that she isn't in the city. She is in a difficult situation. She also has supernatural abilities. And Amy seems like she might have supernatural abilities, but it's not really made clear. But talking about the fourth love interest, basically because of the circumstances that she's in, she feels like she needs to be separated from everyone. It's not like she has, like, the Black Death or anything, but because of what she feels her responsibility is, kind of similar to Sarah, she feels like she shouldn't slip at all. So basically she's trying to give all of her focus to one thing, and to best do that, she basically has chosen solitude, and the protagonist, when he meets her, they spend time together. She's a very kind-hearted girl, and she's very lonely and hasn't had, like, any company, and it sucks. And The protagonist helps her to see that it's like, hey, this is messed up. And it turns out that she's fundamentally deeply wrong about some things. And thankfully, she's able to set this stuff aside and travel to different worlds where they try to settle down somewhere and find a place that they can call home. And the idea is that the home is wherever they decide to be together. So that, in a nutshell, is The Silent Column. It has some themes that are a little bit serious. It has some themes that are a little bit sexual, but it's not trying to be overly grim or gritty, and it's not trying to be like overly sexual to the point where it's like pornography or whatever. It's just when you have a romance story and you have people in loving relationships, it does just make sense that I don't pretend sex doesn't happen, because obviously sex is a healthy part of a romantic relationship. That's just how it is. It's sort of in an in-between state where it's like the sexual stuff is happening, but it's not like overly sanitized to like an artificial degree like a lot of stuff seems to be these days. But it's also not like overly gratuitous like a lot of other stuff seems to be these days on the opposite side of the spectrum. So if you're going into The Silent Column expecting it to be like really clean, it's not. And if you're expecting it to be really unclean, it's also not. But yeah, it talks about some topics that might be a little bit controversial. Like some relationships might be a little bit controversial. Of course, after the fall happened, that's controversial in its own right because it's basically like a mass genocide. And then there's also some characters who, one of the characters talks about having attempted suicide before, and one of the other characters, because of their particular circumstances, and it's a supernatural setting, they were already dead, but like haven't moved on. And then they do something which is very similar to, like, if you're trying to draw comparisons to real life, that could be compared to her committing suicide. But really, it's that she died before. Anyway, in a nutshell, that's The Silent Column. I know that was a little bit heavy, but I just wanted to introduce you guys to the project. There is a free demo, and it's actually quite long. It's 40,000 words. So my advice to you guys is, if this seems interesting to you at all, I know that this isn't everybody's cup of tea. I'd say that the free 40,000 word demo is a relatively good representation of the full visual novel, although the full visual novel obviously has some more sexual stuff in it, and maybe some more extreme stuff in it. Like, there is a little bit of blood in it, for example. But generally speaking, the demo is a pretty good representation of what you're going to get with the full game. So if you want, you can try out the demo for free, and I hope you enjoy it. If you like it, the full game is available on itch.io at the moment for $11.99 USD, and I'm trying to get it onto Steam right now, and I'll be sharing an update video when I hear that it's going to be on Steam. So that's basically it. If you're new to the channel, I make visual novels, obviously, and I make an update video and upload that update video on the first Monday of every month. So, but I don't really make many other videos that often. This is pretty much just an update video channel, although sometimes I make videos talking about what I'd like. But anyway, I've probably talked for quite a while now. I should probably cut this video short. So, thanks for listening. Take care, you guys.